Reprezentantul Ucrainei la Organizația Națiunilor Unite a demontat în fața Consiliului de Securitate acuzațiile false ale Rusiei și Belarusului privind un atac cu drone în Briansk. Folosind date din rapoarte oficiale rusești, delegația ucraineană a dovedit lipsa de implicare în acel incident, evidențiind totodată pierderile civile masive înregistrate de organizațiile internaționale și solicitând sancțiuni economice dure împotriva Moscovei. Vă invităm să vă abonați, să distribuiți acest material și să susțineți activitatea noastră prin aprecierea videoclipului. Echipa Jurnal Info vă mulțumește pentru încredere.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you to ASG Pube for her briefing. Ukraine is participating in today's meeting with a clear and principled purpose. We will not allow the Russian Federation and its war ally, Belarus, to use the Security Council to spread false narratives, propaganda and disinformation, or divert attention from their ongoing aggression and the grave crimes they commit against Ukraine. Let me remind the Council of one essential fact. Since the very first day of Russia's full-scale military invasion on 24 February 2022, Belarus has been a direct accomplice to this aggression. It provided its territory for the invasion from the north and has continued to support the Russian war effort ever since. Today's meeting is particularly cynical. It was requested by Belarus in relation to an incident that allegedly occurred almost 2 weeks ago on the territory of the Russian Federation. The timing of this request, coupled with its selective focus, only further underscores its political motivation. Madam President, now we will provide the Security Council members with the clear facts on this incident. Ukraine categorically rejects the unfounded allegations made by the Belarus and the Russian Federation regarding the alleged attack on a bus in the Briansk region on 17 June 2026. On that date, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine officially and unequivocally stated that the defense forces of Ukraine did not deploy unmanned aerial vehicles against targets in the Briansk region during the specified time frame. In exercising its inherent right of self-defense granted by the UN Charter, Ukraine strikes exclusively legitimate military targets and does not conduct operations against civilians. Let me assure you that Ukraine remains fully committed to international humanitarian law and to the protection of civilian lives. The armed forces of Ukraine do not conduct combat operations against the civilian population. Moreover, the Security Service of Ukraine has reportedly intercepted an official Russian document indicating the absence of any Ukrainian involvement in the incident involving the bus carrying Belarusian citizens in the Briansk region of the Russian Federation. This document, an information report issued by the Monitoring Center of the State Treasury Institution of the Briansk region, SAFE region, notes that no Ukrainian UAVs were present in the relevant airspace at the time of the incident. Taken together, the allegations put forward by Russia and Belarus are not supported by credible evidence and follow a well-established pattern of disinformation aimed at diverting attention from Russia's ongoing war of aggression against Ukraine. This incident bears all the hallmarks of a deliberate information provocation involving fabricated accusations and false narratives designed to manipulate public opinion and create artificial pretexts for further escalation. The Kremlin has repeatedly employed such tactics, including by staging or misrepresenting alleged attacks on civilians, in order to deflect attention from its own war crimes and to discredit the armed forces of Ukraine. We are particularly concerned that this case appears intended to inflame tensions involving Belarus and to foster hostility towards Ukraine among the Belarusian public. Ukraine has no interest in provoking Belarus or harming Belarusian citizens. It is especially cynical for Russia and Belarus to portray themselves as a victim when for years both have acted as aggressors against Ukraine. Moreover, Russia has used the territory of Belarus for military purposes. This included the deployment and operation of communications and signal relay systems, the launch of attack unmanned aerial vehicles, and other military assets supporting its war of aggression against my country. Such actions have drawn Belarus ever deeper into Russia's aggression, created additional threats to regional security, and further undermined Belarus' sovereignty. Against this backdrop, any claims of peaceful intentions by either Russia or Belarus lack credibility. Ukraine possesses ample and unequivocal evidence of this reality. The Russian Federation, with the support of Belarus, bears full responsibility for this war and for the immense human suffering caused by its aggression. This is what the Security Council should be addressing today. We urge members of the Security Council to rely on verified facts rather than on propaganda, to reject unsubstantiated accusations, and to remain focused on the root cause of this conflict, which is Russia's imperialistic policy and a total denial of the Ukrainians' right to exist as a sovereign state and to live as an independent nation. These are causes of Russia's ongoing war of aggression against Ukraine. Madam President, the truly urgent issue that warrants the Council's attention is Russia's systematic violation of international humanitarian law through its continued strikes against Ukrainian cities, residential areas, hospitals, schools, and other civilian infrastructure. Over the past week alone, at least 15 regions of Ukraine have come under Russian attack. In just 1 week, Russia launched approximately 1,400 attack drones, nearly 1,500 guided aerial bombs, and 19 missiles of various types, including ballistic missiles. And as we speak, these attacks with guided aerial bombs continue right now against our cities. According to the regular OHCHR report covering first part of 2026, published today, the war caused more civilian deaths and injuries than in the same period of any year since the full-scale invasion, except 2022. I invite the Security Council members to study this report. These are the findings made by the UN mission on the ground, mission that enjoys full access throughout Ukraine, and cooperation with the Ukrainian government. The situation on the Russian side is completely different. There is no international presence, no verified information. Just allegations and fakes like those we are compelled to listen today. Madam President, let us look clearly at the strategic reality of this war. You could see that Russia's deliberate missile and drone terror against Ukraine's civilians is a last resort of the Kremlin's tyrant who faces imminent defeat. Russia has failed to achieve the strategic objectives it set for itself in 2022. It did not take Kyiv, it did not destroy Ukrainian statehood or conquer the country. It failed to hold Ukraine's European and Euro-Atlantic path. Now, in the 5th year of its full-scale military invasion, Russia has failed to defeat a country supported by the democratic world, a country without assistance from foreign troops on its soil, yet with remarkable resilience, its own professional army, and international support which enables us to defend ourselves. Today, Ukraine's positions on the front line are strong. The armed forces of Ukraine constitute one of the largest and most capable militaries in Europe, and the only one with extensive modern and large-scale combat experience. Ukrainian defenders demonstrate their strengths every single day. Russian invaders pay a heavy price for the continuous assaults across the front line, losing over 30,000 soldiers every month. Ukraine's medium and long-range capabilities have already proven their effectiveness. Ukraine effectively defends itself, but our successes in fight against the aggressor do not change our deepest desire for peace. Ukraine remains steadfast in our commitment to a comprehensive, just, and lasting peace, based on international law, the UN Charter, full respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, and accountability for aggression. We have consistently demonstrated this commitment by putting forward concrete and realistic peace proposals. It is Russia that continues to reject every genuine peace initiative, thereby exposing its true intention to prolong the war rather than end it. Russia seeks to promote its own interpretations of the alleged agreements discussed in Ankara and Istanbul. But the reality is clear. There would be no awarding of aggressor in violation of the basic norms of international law. No one would be ready to capitulate to Russia's unreasonable and unacceptable demands. This war is the result of a deliberate political decision taken in Moscow, and it can be ended by a political decision. It does not require endless negotiations or working groups. It requires one decision: to cease all hostilities against Ukraine and to withdraw Russian forces from Ukraine's territory within internationally recognized borders. That decision could be taken at any moment. The missiles over Kyiv and other Ukrainian cities, the deaths of Ukrainian people of all ages beneath the rubble, all of this could end before this Council meets again. Until that moment, the responsibility for the continuation of war rests solely with the Russian Federation. Ukraine will continue to defend its territory and its people until the restoration of the comprehensive, just, and lasting peace. As Russia demonstrates no willingness for peace, Ukraine's approach remains unchanged. Russia's aggression can only be stopped through strength. This means increased support for Ukraine and increased pressure for the aggressor. First, Ukraine calls on our partners to scale up support for strengthening Ukraine's air defense. This is a concrete, practical step to save civilian lives who are being targeted by Russian missiles, drones, and bombs. Second, Ukraine calls for the expansion and deepening of defense cooperation, including by strengthening the anti-ballistic coalition and investing in Ukraine's long-range capabilities. Strikes against Russian military facilities is not an escalation, it is a necessary step on the path to peace, if Russia does not want to end the killings. Third, Ukraine calls for increased military, economic, and political pressure on the aggressor. Sanctions against Russia and its enablers must be strengthened and enforced where they will have the greatest impact. Russia's oil revenues must be reduced, its military-industrial complex constrained, and its access to critical technologies cut off. Fourth, we call for strengthened support for accountability mechanisms, including the work of a special tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine and continued investigations into war crimes. Fifth, we call for the use of all available diplomatic and legal instruments to secure the immediate return of unlawfully deported Ukrainian children, illegally detained civilians, and prisoners of war. The 628 square kilometers of Ukraine's territory, as defined by the Constitution of Ukraine, are more than just a number. They are our cities and villages, our people, our history, culture, and future. They are what Ukraine's armed forces defend every single day, alongside the principles and values enshrined in the fundamental law of our state. The regime in Moscow must understand that brutality and barbarism, as well as their continued spread of propaganda, will not bring it victory. The cost of this war for Russia will only continue to rise. The longer the Kremlin refuses to acknowledge the reality that he will never achieve any of its elusive objectives of dominance over Ukraine, the worse consequences for Russia will become. The only way forward for Russia is to end its war of aggression against Ukraine now. Thank you.